Recording is started.
Very good. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to class. It's nice to have you all here. Yes.
I want to apologize for the internet this morning.
Okay. Apology from our electronic services team. There was an apparent issue with YouTube, but it did get recorded, so it will be posted. It's uploading right now. So if anybody tried to watch it this morning and it only got partway through, it should be there soon.
Yep.
Same thing happened last week. And talking with both Jerry and Steve, they think it's a YouTube issue. So, because we haven't changed anything on the side. So, all right, let's begin with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together to your house and to this place that we may learn more about you and the truth of your word. Open our minds and our hearts that we may better understand what you tell us in the Bible about our own sinfulness and about our forgiveness through your Son, Jesus Christ. We pray that you'd help us gain confidence that even as we are asked questions about the Bible from those who are around us, we may be bold enough to and confident enough to be able to answer. We pray especially today that you'd help us understand the truth about dinosaurs, one of your creations, and how they are part of your creation and we're part of Noah's Ark as well. We ask that you'd bless our congregation, help us to grow according to your will, but most especially keep us strong in faith. And we pray your blessing upon Neil Webb and Pastor Yeager as they deliberate calls. Keep them, give them the wisdom that is necessary to discern your will. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. So those of you who might not have heard, I just said it in the prayer. Last Sunday, Pastor Yeager, Sunday afternoon or early evening, I don't know, got a phone call and he's receiving a call. I mentioned it in my Bible studies midweek, but there will be an announcement in church and it's part of the prayer. So both Neil and Pastor Yeager are both deliberating calls right now. So yeah, we'll see what that means. I don't know. 4 handouts up here today. So help yourself if you haven't gotten them yet. And today's topic, I think is it chapter 9? It's dinosaurs. Let me see. Chapter 9, dinosaurs. You know, this might be a little less interesting for some of you, or maybe not. But I can tell you when I do talk with kids in confirmation or with Ask the Pastor time type of thing, they all often ask about dinosaurs. Well, Pastor, do we believe in dinosaurs? And that's the first question. And I'm like, yes, we believe in dinosaurs. Yeah, they're part of God's creation. Well, what happened to them? Well, they went extinct. If they're old enough that they understand that word extinct, well, they went extinct. That's what happened. So, yes, as Christians, we do believe in dinosaurs. There's a lot to understand about it, too. So, yes.
I was told once that dinosaurs did not exist. The guy had a wonderful sense of humor, and he planted these bones for us to find just to give us puzzle solvers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that.
But he could have.
He could have. I don't doubt that. He could have just planted the bones and made it for something for us to find, I suppose. Chapter 9. Let's skim through the chapter real quick and pull out some highlights, and then we'll go over some of these handouts. So what about dinosaurs? Right in the middle of that first paragraph, Sir Richard Owen, the most distinguished zoologist in Britain during the mid-19th century, was the first to use the term in 1841. Dinosaur means terrible lizard. You can look in books before 1841 and you won't find the word dinosaur. It wasn't yet coined. Until then, dragon was the term people used to describe these creatures. Wow. Well, why aren't dinosaurs mentioned in the Bible? People would ask. And I say, well, they are. Remember, the word dinosaur, the word itself wasn't invented until 1841. And prior to that, like in the Middle Ages, what did they call dinosaurs?
Dragons.
Dragons, exactly. So again, the kids are surprised. You mean we believe in dragons? And I say, yes, if you realize that dragon is a reference to a dinosaur. They don't breathe fire. They don't sit on horns of gold in a den somewhere. They don't talk. They don't have magical powers. But a dragon is the word for a dinosaur.
Thank you.
Got
Did
Jane's
you
notes
take
in
his
it.
book?
I stole his book.
It's got Jane's notes in it. You don't
Yeah,
want it.
yeah, that's
Geez,
right.
look, bookmark, that's pretty cool.
So dragon. Dragon was the term for a dinosaur. All right, turn the page. Page 84, the end of the top paragraph there. Since reptiles grow as long as they live, it is possible the largest dinosaurs were very old lizards, which lived for hundreds of years as well. However, we tend to think that all dinosaurs were gigantic, but this is simply not the case. Based on fossilized remains, the average dinosaur was about the size of a sheep. Do you realize that? One of the handouts mentions there's like 500 different types of dinosaurs. The vast majority of them are the size of a sheep, or at most the size of a horse. That's not that big. And I didn't realize till reading this chapter that reptiles continue to grow as long as they live.
Yeah,
How long was lifespan before Noah's flood? Remember we talked about this in the previous chapters.
Hundreds of years.
Yeah, there was the firmament that provided an insulating layer, higher level of oxygen, better quality food, all sorts of factors.
No food additives.
Yeah, no food additives, there you go. No organic food or modified food, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But we know prior to the time of Noah, lifespans were somewhere between 700 and 900 years. It's doable. The human body.
For humans, now what were reptiles?
Right, exactly. So if reptiles continue to grow as long as they live and they had longer lifespans, yes, they would be bigger, right? Humans, we stopped growing about when? Age
16.
18, 20,
18,
22,
yeah.
I don't know. Except for, and I remember this, our ears keep growing, right?
And the nose.
And your nose. As long as you live, your ears and your nose keeps growing.
And your stomach.
And your stomach. Somebody in one of the other Bible studies said, we keep growing, we grow out. So yes, if you just think about it, dinosaurs prior to Noah would have been quite large, some of them, because of their lifespan. Also, just kind of a recognition of this, even so, we have this, this fantasized movie idea of how big dinosaurs are. You watch the Jurassic movies and you think, oh, look how huge these are. I remember early on when we lived here, we went to the Chicago Museum of Natural History. Many of you have been there probably?
Yeah.
You've seen the skeleton of the T-Rex?
Of Susan?
Sue, yeah,
Sue.
right. I didn't realize, I was impressed by this. It's only one of two complete T-Rex skeletons in existence in museums. Most museums only get parts of the bones and they have to supplement it with artificial, but it's a complete skeleton of a T-Rex. My first impression when walking in there was, it's not as big as I thought. I actually looked it up after reading this chapter. The T-Rex in Chicago is only 13 feet tall.
Really?
Now, if I had a 13,
Stage and, you know,
yeah, now it's 42 feet long, including the tail, but 13 feet tall. Now, if I had a 13-foot tall lizard, reptile, chasing me, yes, it's still scary. But on Jurassic Park, you get this vision that, you know, they're 4 or 5 stories tall. They're not that tall. That's over-dramatized for the movies. Plus, the vast majority of dinosaurs were the size of a sheep or up to a horse. Okay? All right, continue on. Page 84, down at the bottom. The very last word there, and then going on. Following the flood, major climate changes resulted in an ice age that forever altered the environment and lifespans. The reduction in lifespan for mankind is apparent based on the genealogy in Genesis 11. But how did this affect the dinosaurs? Since lizards grow as long as they live, a reduction in the lifespan would also reduce their size. But the biggest change would be in the sheer number of dinosaurs. A changed environment combined with a lack of food, disease, and man's activity would cause the dinosaurs whose ancestors survived on the ark to become extinct. It's really not that hard to understand as Christians. Noah would have had some of the dinosaurs, a pair of every type, on the ark, like he did all the other animals. And when the ark landed and he opened it up and they all went out, some of the dinosaurs, well, all of the animals would start to reproduce, but because the environment was now changed, some of the animals went extinct. The dinosaurs included, as being some of those groups, animal groups that went extinct. It's not hard to understand. And it's perfectly consistent with what God says in the Bible.
Well, one other thing with the ice age that was going on too, after
Yes.
that, there might have been, they couldn't survive in that environment.
We know there was an ice age right after Noah's flood due to all the catastrophic conditions at the time. And so that would have put a huge strain on a number of the types of animals, families of animals. You're right. Absolutely.
Why would he want them on the ark to save them and then allow them to go extinct? That doesn't make sense to me.
I agree. I don't know.
But God does things we don't understand.
Yeah.
I know I only have a human brain, but it doesn't.
Yeah, right. I'm sure God would have known that the dinosaurs would go extinct soon after the ark. So why save them in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because.
Well, he's God. He saved everything.
And because he said two.
Two of everything. Yeah, right. I don't know.
Two of them.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's one of those questions we can ask God when we get to heaven, if you still remember it.
I'm making a list.
To make oil, yeah, to make oil and petroleum, right? The fossilized dead remains of plants and animals, yeah. All right, page 85, the second paragraph there, just the beginning. Bones of a Tyrannosaurus rex yielded red blood cells and hemoglobin, even though these should have decomposed long ago if the sample was millions of years old, as evolutionists claim. So the assumption for the start of the Jurassic movies that they found dinosaur DNA, actually there's some truth to that. Red blood cells and hemoglobin. If dinosaurs were really millions of years old, there would not be any of that left. It would have all decayed long ago. But if dinosaurs only lived a few thousand years ago, then you could still find red blood cells and hemoglobin within the bones of the dinosaurs. So the difference between creationists or Christians and atheists or evolutionists is not about dinosaurs, but when they lived. See, we would say, yes, dinosaurs were real. They lived. We recognize that. We have their skeletons. We have their fossilized remains. There's, that's clear evidence. We know dinosaurs existed. We think they existed a matter of 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. In other words, at the time of Noah's flood, versus evolutionists and atheists would say, no, dinosaurs were 65 million years ago and they died off long before mankind evolved. That's the difference. We would say mankind and dinosaurs coexisted. They would say they did not. Okay, so again, it gets down to the age of the earth and the age of the universe.
They found proof there were arrowheads found in fossils stuck between ribs of like mastodons and things. So
Sure.
they had to exist the same time as man.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, historical references, page 86. This is kind of interesting. Just starting a couple lines down in that top paragraph on 86. In the Sumerian story of Gilgamesh, dating to around 2000 BC, the hero killed a dragon found in a forest. As Alexander the Great entered India in approximately 330 BC, he found huge reptiles kept in cages. Chinese culture is well known for dragon stories, while also featuring dragons prominently in their artwork. In England, St. George killed a dragon that lived in a cave in the 1300s. On May 13, 1572, near Bologna in Italy, an Italian peasant named Baptista killed a dragon whose description fits that of a small dinosaur called a Tanistropheus, whatever that is. So there are many cultures around the world that have stories within their culture, within their history, of dragons. Remember, they wouldn't use the word dinosaur. It wasn't invented until 1841. There are stories of dragons. Now, if you think of dragons in fanciful artwork and science fiction and movies and stuff, if you say there's a dragon, but you take away that it's magic or it doesn't breathe fire or it doesn't talk, what do you have left? It looks an awful lot like a dinosaur. Did some of the dinosaurs fly? Yeah. Pterodactyls, right? So that's what people would call, what we would today would say is a dinosaur. Back then they would call it a dragon. And here's a whole bunch of cultures that talk about encounters with dragons. The latest of which, those two, the one in England and the one in Italy, were in the Middle Ages. Could it be that a few lines of the dinosaurs after Noah's Ark existed, just, a couple of them, all the way down to the Middle Ages until the final last couple numbers of them went extinct. And that's when they finally went extinct. So you have these stories, Alexander the Great, and in Samaria and in China, they have these ancient stories about people with encounters with dragons. Well, I'm not going to base my argument that humans and dinosaurs coexisted 3,000 to 4,000 years ago based on all these stories. However, this is another piece of evidence that kind of gives us confidence that, look, there might have been dragons, i.e. dinosaurs, coexisting with some humans as late as the Middle Ages, right? This sort of would make sense. All right, any questions or comments so far? All right, biblical references. Let's go on, page 87. The second short paragraph down, and then I'm going to go into that first paragraph of the quote. In order to show Job his greatness, God asks him to consider two great creatures. The first, behemoth, means a large beast, as found in Job chapter 40. Behold behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar, and the sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. Now, the word behemoth is untranslated. That is a direct transliteration from the Hebrew. The Hebrew word here is behemoth, okay? Which means very literally a large beast. No one knows specifically what that's referring to, not even Jewish scholars. They don't know what animal God is referring to here when he's showing the might of creation to Job. Modern day skeptics will say, well, the Bible right here is just talking about an elephant or a hippo. An elephant being the largest land animal known today. Okay? However, he makes his tail stiff like a cedar. Does an elephant or a hippo have a tail like a cedar? No. Strength is, his limbs are like bars of iron, muscles of his belly. It does not at all sound like an elephant or a hippo. Most conservative biblical scholars and theologians, including me and our church, we would say this is a reference to a dinosaur. It's a reference to a dinosaur right here. That's what it looks like. That God is describing a dinosaur to Job as an example of the greatness of creation. Okay? We really don't know, but it certainly does appear that way. Now, there's a second one in here that's also mentioned. Turn the page 88, the second paragraph down. Job 41 describes Leviathan, which means a great water animal. It says, can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Later we read in verses 31 to 34, he makes the deep to boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. Behind him he leaves a shining wake. One would think the deep to be white-haired. On earth there is not his like, a creature without fear. He sees everything that is high. He is king over the sons of pride. Again, Leviathan is an untranslated word. We don't know what it means, but it means some great sea creature. So some people say, well, that's talking about a whale. Well, there's another word for whale, so it doesn't appear to be he's talking about a whale. Plus, it sounds like this creature swims along the surface because behind him he leaves a shining wake and he leaves the deep boiling like a pot. So that would be like some great creature swimming along the surface. Whales generally don't swim along the surface, although some of them, they do for short times when they're breathing. So again, it appears that this might be referring to a water dinosaur, a dinosaur of the water. Let me see, I think I have a picture of such a thing. No, it's not there. Well, let me do a quick search because I know it's... any of you heard of I think it's a plesiosaur?
Google up Loch Ness.
Google up Loch Ness, yeah, that's about the truth. Yeah, right.
And didn't he have a long neck and big fins and ate fish?
Right. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me do a share
Yeah.
screen here. Let's see. Okay.
Green bottom,
What's that?
green bottom.
Oh, share screen, yeah. Plesiosaur, share. There we go. Is it being shared?
Yep.
Okay, good. There's a plesiosaur, a water dinosaur.
God, it looks like paddles inside.
It does. It's got fins instead of feet, and it's a dinosaur. It's in the dinosaur family. It's a reptile. Could that be the Leviathan that God is talking about? Could be. Absolutely, it could be. Could that be Nessie, Loch Ness Monster?
Could be.
I'm not going to really come down on that one way or another, but I'm going to say it's possible. Could there be, a remaining dinosaur, a water dinosaur deep in the bottom of Lake Loch Ness in Scotland that nobody's been able to discover except these weird grainy pictures? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm not going to say no. It's possible, I suppose. It'd be strange. I would kind of wonder, why hasn't somebody gotten a better picture of it by now? But nevertheless, I personally, this is not a point of theology, but I personally think this is what God is referring to as a Leviathan. And that the behemoth was one of the small dinosaurs. So that there are two words, untranslated, a little bit vague, we don't quite know, behemoth and Leviathan, both coming from the Hebrew, meaning large animals. So those are very likely referring to dinosaurs, okay? So there is, we think, some reference to dinosaurs in the Bible as well. All right, so the question is, that's like the end of the chapter, I think, right there. Yep, end of the chapter. So the question is, did dinosaurs coexist with humans? That's the question, okay? Let's look at the first of the handouts. I want to look at the one that is one-sided only. It looks like this. Looks like this. Okay? This comes from a book called Guide to Dinosaurs from the Institute of Creation Research. A couple of points here. One is, the first one is the Chinese zodiac. You ever go to a Chinese restaurant and the placemat has the Chinese zodiac on it? And it seems like every time I go there, I'm like, why are we always in the year of the rat?
Yeah.
Last year, I don't know what year it was according to the Chinese zodiac, but last year would qualify as the year of the rat. Anybody happen to know what year we're in? But it's interesting that on the Chinese zodiac, they have 11 animals that are real animals today, plus a dragon. Now, if this was created centuries ago in the Chinese culture, why would they use one mythical animal and 11 real animals? That seems illogical. They probably used 12 real animals. And remember, if this dates back to prior to the Middle Ages, then there were still a few remnants of dragons, they would have called them, dragons back then that would end up on the zodiac.
Pastor,
Yes.
real quick, last year was the year of the rat. And yeah, this year is the year of the ox.
Okay, all right. So we have some strength coming back after the year of the rat, right? I was joking about the year of the rat. I didn't realize it was true. I'm glad you looked it up, Terry. Thank you. All right, the next one there on the middle on the left side looks like an arrowhead, but it's not. It's a big stone tablet on which is some Egyptian history that has been recorded. It's called the Narmer Palette. An ancient Egyptian plaque known as the Narmer Palette depicts humans handling two creatures that resemble long-necked dinosaurs. You see it right in the middle? And they've got leashes on them. So they're like, I don't know, zookeepers, farmers. They're handling these animals. That's no known animal today. That's not a giraffe. That looks like it could be dinosaurs depicted in ancient Egypt history. And then one more, the bottom right-hand side, that there's what looks like to be a stegosaurus carved right in the middle there. This carving at the Top Prom Temple near the province of Siem Reap in Cambodia. It actually comes from, I know a little bit of this from my architecture history. It comes from a complex called Angkor Wat, if any of you have heard of that. It's part of architectural history that we touched on it when I had that class, because it's the largest religious site in the world. It's a Buddhist religious site, and it's a huge temple complex that dates back a couple thousand years. Okay, all carved out of stone. It's a Buddhist religious site. On some of the stone carvings, there's this picture. You see that picture there? Boy, it certainly looks like a triceratops or a stegosaurus with the bony plates along the back. Boy, there's no known animal like that today, is there? Well, that again, it leads a little bit of credibility to the idea that humans and dinosaurs coexisted. Okay, go to this handout next. I got it from answersingenesis.org. I'm sorry, the copy are cut off where I hand wrote the reference, so if you ever need it. Answersingenesis.org. It says dinosaurs. When did dinosaurs live? Well, we would say a few thousand years ago, not 65 million years ago. Types of dinosaurs. Oh, this is where, does it say in here somewhere how many there are? No, not really. But there are many different types of dinosaurs. They're all kind of in the reptile family. Dinosaurs in the Bible, this is where we just talked about Behemoth and Leviathan. You see them there in the next column as well, Leviathan. So we think those are references to dinosaur creatures. Humans and dinosaurs together. Biblical creationists believe that man and dinosaurs lived at the same time because God said that he created man and land animals on day 6. There is historical evidence of dinosaurs and man living together, such as the petroglyph in Natural Bridges, Utah, legends and stories of dragons in Europe, and the dragon motif in China. But one striking artifact in Asia is the bas relief picture of a dinosaur in the ruins of Angkor Wat out of Siem Reap, Cambodia. We just looked at that. Here's another example or a piece of evidence for dinosaurs and humans living together. Okay, so let me call this up and then I'll share a screen. Okay, this is an actual, let's see, share screen right there. Okay, there. Is it on the screen?
Yep.
This is an actual fossilized footprint that has been found in Texas, among other dinosaur footprints and dinosaur ruins. What do you see there? A human footprint and a dinosaur footprint on top of each other. And it looks like, because of the deep impression of the big toe of the human was running. Yes, that makes sense, right? And because the middle toe of the dinosaur is over top of the human footprint, it looks like the dinosaur footprint came second. I actually looked this up. There's articles on this. And evolutionists and atheists, they try to come up with all kinds of explanations how these two could be together. None of them seem to me reasonable. I mean, it's all kind of fanciful and, various ideas of how this could be together. But as a creationist, we say, yeah, that could absolutely make sense. Dinosaurs and humans coexisted. So a human was running, he saw a dinosaur behind him, he's running, and there comes the dinosaur footprint shortly thereafter. And then it gets fossilized in the stone. So this is a piece of evidence, again, not an absolute definitive cause, I suppose, but a strong piece of evidence that dinosaurs and humans coexisted. Yeah,
Do you think God made the dinosaurs extinct because they were too hard on man?
I don't know. I suppose that's possible.
And here he is trying to step on his foot.
Yeah. Well, more than step on his foot.
He wasn't lunch.
Probably licking his lips. Yeah. Yes. All right. So there's that. Back to the handout. Soft tissue found in dinosaurs. We already mentioned that. There has been soft tissue found in the T-Rex bones. So how does that explain? You flip it over. Dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. That again is another criticism from evolutionists to Christians. Well, if you believe dinosaurs coexisted with humans, how did Noah, you believe in Noah, how did Noah get them on the ark? Well, we've already talked about Noah's flood for a while, right? The ark was huge. Noah took one pair of every kind of animal. That means family of animal, not species of animal. So among the 16 to 30,000 animals he had, there would have been a couple hundred dinosaurs. And remember that the vast majority of dinosaurs were the size of a sheep. Maybe they grew to the size of a horse if they lived long enough. That's not that big. You could get them on. And even the few dinosaurs that would get to be large, God would have sent to Noah the young ones, you know, the adolescents, so that when they came off the ark, they could begin reproducing. So it's really not that hard. Were dragons real? Back on the handout here. Were dragons real? Yes. See, this is where I surprise the kids. We believe in dragons. I believe in dragons. Pastor, you believe in dragons? Yes. Dragons are dinosaurs that don't breathe fire and don't talk and don't have magic. Okay? But they're real. That's what people called them. I usually have to explain to the kids. The word dinosaur wasn't invented until 1841. There are new words being invented all the time, aren't there?
Internet.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a perfect example of one. I read some story. This is completely off topic, but just because my brain does that sometimes. I read some story quite a while ago, more than a year ago, on the changes in the English language and our vocabulary. I know we got some English people in here.
Most of us.
Most of you, yes. That our vocabulary today is bigger than our vocabulary was 100 years ago. However, some big percentage of it, I don't remember the number, 60%, are different words. Words that have been coined or created because of our advances in technology and culture. So a lot of the old-fashioned words we might recognize, but just aren't used anymore. So anyway. All right, back on the sheet. Are birds evolved from dinosaurs? Even in the evolutionary scheme, they say birds evolved from dinosaurs. There's absolutely no evidence for that. Not even within the evolutionary ideas. There's no evidence for that. So no, birds are an entirely different type of creature. And then dinosaur movies. Yes, they're fun to watch. They're entertaining. I like the Jurassic movies too, but realize they're just fanciful. They're not real. You know, some of you know I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And you know, the Hobbit movies with the dragon in there, and the dragon has got this real silky, smooth, deep, evil voice. It's an English. It's an English. Yeah, well, it's who's the actor that plays it? Cumberbatch plays the voice of the dragon in the Hobbit movies. You know, it's kind of neat, and it gives you that image of the dragon, but it's not real. Dragons were just, you know, flying dinosaurs that didn't speak, they didn't have magic, they didn't breathe fire. All right. What happened to the dinosaurs? The last thing on this handout? Well, see, again, evolution is because they have no explanation. They say a giant asteroid hit the Earth and jostled the Earth such that all the dinosaurs died out. Well, there's no evidence of that. They can't even find a huge crater of evidence. We, on the other hand, we've got the perfect explanation. We understand there were dinosaurs on the ark. Most of them went extinct in the flood, and the remaining ones that came off the ark went extinct in, you know, some number of hundreds of years afterwards. That's it. All right. Any questions about dinosaurs?
I think there are things that go extinct all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not an unusual phenomenon.
Right.
There are new, not evolutionary things, but there are other things that have changed or evolved or whatever that we believe in.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, if you're a farmer, you know, they do crossbreeding and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Right. All kinds of animals are created, new species, and others that go extinct. Right. All right. Next thing I want to look at is this handout that says, should Christians believe in the existence of unicorns? That's related to this topic. So it's a little different, but it's related. Again, this is typically, I kind of know the questions I'm going to get when I do ask the pastor time with younger kids. This is a question I almost always get at some point from 3rd and 4th graders, especially girls. Pastor, do unicorns exist? And they're almost always shocked when I say, yes, I believe in unicorns. Really? Unicorns exist? I say, yes, but they are not magic. They don't talk. They're not pink or purple with sparkles on them. They don't fly on rainbows, but unicorns exist. And this is how I usually explain it. Picture for yourself an antelope or a gazelle. And how do their horns look? They have two long, straight horns that come off like this, right? Think of a gazelle. On the other hand, there's lots of different horn patterns. What kind of horns does a ram have? Two big, thick ones that kind of curl out like this, right? What about a bull? Two horns that come out like this, right? And then there's antlers, of course. All kinds of shapes of antlers, moose and deer and all that kind of stuff too. So what about a rhinoceros? What kind of horns does a rhinoceros have? A big, short, fat, stubby one, and then right behind it is a thinner one, right? A smaller one. What if you had a creature, and I tell the kids this, picture in your mind a gazelle that instead of having two horns like this, had one horn like this. What would you call that creature? And they say, a unicorn. I said, yeah, exactly, a unicorn. It's not magic. It's a horse-like creature with one horn instead of two. That's not hard to imagine that. So
Vicky has a deer in her yard that shows up, one horn.
well, they probably had to, or one of them got diseased or chopped off or something. Right?
Years now.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, but there's still an animal,
Mhm.
horse looking and with one horn.
Right.
She has a unicorn.
So yeah, right. Well, you could call it that, I guess. Sure. Now, again, this might be in the Bible. Okay. Look at that second paragraph down on this handout. The word translated as unicorn in the King James Version is often rendered as wild ox in modern translations. The Hebrew word is re'em. Re'em. Again, nobody knows what animal that's referring to, the Hebrew word re'em. There were some Jewish scholars that say that referred to an ox-like creature that had one horn. The King James, which is the first English translation, remember, translated it as unicorn. So if you get an old-fashioned King James, you will find, I don't know, it's 5, 6, 7 spots in the Bible where it says unicorn. However, more modern languages, translators say unicorn, oh, that's some mythical creature, you know, like a fawn or a centaur. That doesn't exist. So what could this word re'em mean? Well, they found a similar word in another ancient language, Sumerian or something, I don't even remember. That's like, it's one letter difference, ra'im, I think, something like that, and which means ox in that other language. So then modern day translators say, well, this Hebrew word re'em, maybe it means ox. So in our modern translations, including the ESV or the NIV or NASB or any of those, that word is listed as ox. You'll see it in the Psalms, you'll see it in Isaiah. There's a couple other spots where you'll see that word translated as ox. Now, could it be that that ox was a one-horned animal that could be called a unicorn? Again, we don't know. Turn the page over. I know it translated kind of dark there in that little picture, and I'm going to show you one on the screen. So let me do a screen share again. This is an actual creature that did exist that we have bones and skeleton for. Share screen. There we go. Share. Okay, is that on the screen? Is this in the way?
Yes.
No, not on this screen.
Not on that screen, but up here. Can I change it?
Should be able to move.
There we go. This creature actually existed. We have bones for it. It is named in the biology world an elasmotherium. I have never heard of this before. But Marco Polo describes seeing one of these in China back in like the 1300s. Okay. Now the picture on the artist rendering on your handout, it looks like there's a little bit of fur on it, like a buffalo. This artist, the picture of it that I have on the screen, it looks like it's got a hide like a rhinoceros. But in either case, how many horns does it have? One. And where is that horn? Right in the middle of its head. This animal existed. Now, if you didn't have all these fancy Latin names for animals and you lived in the Middle Ages or in the early ages and you saw this creature, what might you call it?
Unicorn.
A unicorn. It's got one horn. It's a unicorn. And might it be misunderstood as being the equivalent of an ox? kind of a powerful horse-like creature. So it ends up getting translated as ox in our modern translations. Yeah, you can think of that as, you know, a strong animal like an ox.
It looks more like a rhinoceros.
It does look like a rhinoceros to me too. That's usually how I describe it to the kids. I say, think of a one-horned rhinoceros or a one-horned antelope, although antelope is a smaller, more petite creature. But they're both kind of horse-like animals with one horn. So again, I shock the kids when I say, yes, I believe in unicorns. What, really? I say, well, they don't jump over rainbows. They don't have sparkles on them. It's not My Little Pony. But think of an animal with one horn. People would have called it a unicorn. So that's kind of amazing. I bet you didn't think you'd come to Bible study today thinking that pastor would convince you that unicorns were real. All right, one more topic that's kind of related to all of this as well, Neanderthals. That's the last handout there.
Stop here.
Oh, stop sharing, yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Let's not get political.
Let's not get political, yes. It's been in the news lately. Historically, people would think a Neanderthal, and there was a point in time where people would say, evolutionists would say, well, the Neanderthal is the transition creature between an ape and a human. It's an ape on its way into evolving into a human. Because Neanderthals, think of cavemen, like the Geico commercial, right? The long sloping forehead and the strange jaw, and they would kind of walk hunched over. And they say, well, that's a Neanderthal. Well, after doing more investigation and having more modern techniques on Neanderthal skeletons, which do exist, they're 100% human. They're fully human. So what happened? Well, the last two paragraphs on this handout. Thus, according to current evolutionary interpretation, Neanderthals were not a separate species that went extinct. See, even the evolutionists now claim that Neanderthals are fully human. They're not a separate species. Instead, population pockets of Neanderthals died out around 30,000 years ago. No, we would say a few thousand years ago. Whereas other Neanderthal populations survived through interbreeding with their modern human brothers and sisters who lived on to this day. Given the plentiful evidence that Neanderthals were highly intelligent, along with how slight the anatomical differences between modern humans and Neanderthals are, creationists have long argued that Neanderthal simply refers to the remains of certain humans with bulky builds and related characteristics, the result of genetic differences, but perhaps exacerbated by conditions such as rickets. I remember reading an article quite some time ago that if you deprive a human of the right nutrients, specifically vitamin C, that after a generation or two, you get malnourished in a certain way, and you'll start to have some birth defects, among which are this long sloping forehead and this jaw structure, and your bones, you'll be hunched over like this, so that Neanderthals are humans, fully humans, that a combination of genetic defects and malnutrition caused them to have the deformed shape that they have. Okay? And what do we know happened right after Noah's flood in the climate? The Ice Age, right? Was it harder to find food? Not just for dinosaurs, but for humans too. They had to all go closer to the water, down to lower elevations, closer to the water to find green space, because all the mid to upper level altitude areas were all becoming ice covered from the Ice Age. So harder to find food, less nutritious food. The combination of things caused what we would say are Neanderthals. But they're really just humans, okay? Fully humans. They don't walk around hunched over and grunt, you know, they're not some old caveman type of creature.
Well, thank you for telling me I'm human.
Oh,
My ancestry DNA thing,
yeah,
and I've got Neanderthal in me.
you do?
Yes.
Ah, well, yep, it's fully human, that's right.
I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that?
All right. One other little piece of evidence that I don't have on the handouts, not in the book, but something that I just remember reading it somewhere along the line. There are points in history, in human history, where people lived in caves. You know, some of the American Indians, for instance, or Native Americans, I guess we should say, right?
Cave dwellers.
Cave dwellers. People lived in caves. It was a natural shelter. It had a constant temperature. You only needed one person to guard the entrance against, you know, enemies or predators. So people lived in caves at various points in time in various places in the world. That doesn't make you a Neanderthal or halfway between, you know, ape and human. And in many of those caves, there are drawings on the walls. As in more primitive times, people would draw and they'd write. And some of those, there actually are pictures of this. Some of those cave drawings are of humans hunting dinosaurs. Now, how would that happen if they didn't know what a dinosaur looked like, if they were making it up as a mythical creature? And why would they put that on the wall of their cave that they were living in anyway? So again, another just a little piece of evidence that humans and dinosaurs coexisted, that there are some depictions of humans hunting dinosaurs. Okay? All right, hey, look at that, 10 minutes early. Any questions or comments or discussion anybody want to have? Covered it all pretty well. Huh? All right. There's a lot more information on this and other topics down at the Creation Museum and on the Noah's Ark. I know a few people have gone to the Noah's Ark exhibit on their own. I've been there twice now. And they've come back and said, Pastor, is it really true? They had some of their displays show dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. And I say, and they're a little bit shocked, I sometimes think. I say, yeah, I believe that. There were dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. Really? We thought maybe that was just their fanciful imagination from the display. I said, no, there were dinosaurs on the Ark. So, you know, Noah would have had those as well. And well, what happened to them? Well, they went extinct. So
Alligators still exist. They see they're.
yeah, some people would say alligators are kind of in the same family as dinosaurs.
Keep growing and growing until they die.
Alligators do?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, they're reptiles.
No, okay.
All reptiles continue to grow.
I guess so. Yes.
Some of them get pretty big.
They do. You're right.
They go to their habitat as well.
Oh, so if they're contained by a certain habitat, that's where they'll max out.
We learned that by having one.
Uh,
at home.
You had an alligator in your home?
Oh, reptile.
Oh,
They will grow based on, because we only had one and we had it in a fairly roomy cage. They said it would grow bigger than
Oh.
normal cages if they're kind of go to their surroundings.
okay. So it's not like that book, you know, don't feed your fish too much. You never know what'll happen. You never know what, or what is that children's book? I forget. The kid feeds the fish too much. Anyway, sorry. I don't remember that book. All right. Other questions or comments? All right. Well, we can close early a little bit. Next week, I might try to cover the next 2 chapters together. And this will be a little more theological. The next 2 chapters, did Jesus really exist? And what about Jesus' death, resurrection, and their effects? Now, appropriately so, this is a prime topic that Christians are attacked for, okay? So that we need to be able to defend. And that is, how do you know Jesus really existed? Isn't he just some made-up person from history, you know, like other made-up people in history? And even if he did exist, how do you know he really died on the cross and rose again? How do you really know? That is a key question that we as Christians are attacked for by atheists, evolutionists, agnostics, etc. And that is appropriate, because as St. Paul says, if Christ did not rise from the dead, our faith is futile, and we are to be pitied more than all humankind. He says that, and that's true. Our faith relies upon the existence of Jesus and that he died and rose again. So how can you gain confidence that that is real and true? We're going to try and cover that in the next lesson that we need. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why do we as Lutherans call this apologetics?
Apologetics. Well, the Greek word, I think the Greek word is apologetics, right? Straight out of there. It means to defend. That's what the word means. So it gets mixed up with the modern day understanding of apology, because we think of apology today as expressing your sorrow or regret or remorse. You need to apologize for what you did. You say to one little kid to another little kid or whatever. But really, in a classic sense, the word apologetics means to defend. Just like in our Book of Concord, the apology of the Augsburg Confession doesn't mean we're apologizing, we're regretting it or expressing remorse. We're defending it. Because at the time, when the Lutheran forefathers wrote the Augsburg Confession, then the Catholic Church commissioned a document against the Augsburg Confession. Then we wrote another document called the Apology of the Augsburg Confession, which was defending it. We don't have that intermediate document in our Book of Concord because we don't need it, but I do have a copy of it in my office if you ever wanted to look at it, of where the Catholic Church rebutted everything we said in the Augsburg Confession. But it's called the Apology. The classic sense of that word, apologetics or apology, means to defend. And actually, if you think about it, if one person makes a mistake or an insult against somebody else and you apologize for it, that is a form of defense. You're saying, you're admitting you did it and asking for forgiveness. Apology in the modern day understanding. Oh, I apologize to my wife because I said something insulting, say, which I do that all the time. But that's a form of defense, to say, just admit it and ask for forgiveness. So it is slightly related, but they are different uses of the word that has similar origins of the use of the word, but the modern day word apology means something different than apologetics. Did I give you way too much answer?
No, it seems like we want to evolve with the terms, right?
Yeah.
Because it was very confusing.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. So we could just call it the defense of the faith, or come up with some new word. We could coin a new word, like Professor whatever coined dinosaur in 1841. Yes, we do.
This is not on that subject, but we were watching Jeopardy the other night, and the question was, what brought on the Catholic resurgence of what brought on the resurgence of the Catholic faith? And the answer was the Reformation. And I thought, that can't be right.
Well, there's some truth to that. When Luther originally was trying to reform the Catholic Church. He wasn't trying to start a new church. And when he stepped on enough toes and got enough people upset, including the Pope, they kicked him out. So he had to start a new church. Then, as a rebuttal to all these ideas, those Lutherans, and our original name, by the way, was evangelicals. Those evangelicals, those Lutherans, so the Catholic Church wrote a rebuttal, the refutation of the Augsburg Confession. And it started a counter-reformation within the Catholic Church. So there was a resurgence of, interest in Catholic dogma right after the Reformation started by Martin Luther and Melanchthon. So there was a little bit of that. That's true. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Good questions. All right, why don't we rise and close with the Lord's Prayer? Okay.
Neil was gonna go to sleep.
All right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks for
very much.
coming. Have a great day, everyone.
Actually, don't close that.
Okay.
Just leave that. I'm gonna stop the recording.